Well, the United Nations Secretary General has weighed in on two upcoming elections in the region, Zimbabwe at the end of this month and the Democratic Republic of the Congo in December. Antonio Guterres was speaking during a mid-year press conference at the UN headquarters in New York. A visit by the UN Chief and African Union Commission Chair Moussa Faki to the DRC was this week unexpectedly postponed by the government of President Joseph Kabila. This was his response to a question by the SABC's news team.
We all strongly hope that the changes in Zimbabwe will lead for a country able to live in full democracy with full respect of human rights and able to restore a development process that I believe the resources of the country and the capacity of the Zimbabweans fully justify. And I strongly hope that things will go in the right direction. We are in very close consultation with both SADC and the African Union in this regard. In relation to the DRC, we just received a confirmation that our visit will be welcome in the near future. And the reason that was given for the delay was that the President will take very soon, will announce very soon a number of important decisions, and that the President doesn't want to give the impression that he's doing so because of international pressure. And so not only our visits, but also other visits were postponed. If that means that he's going to take the right decisions and wants to give the impression that no international pressure has led him to take the right decisions, I will be very comfortable with the postpone.
Well, our correspondent Sherwin Bryce Pearce joins us now from New York. Good evening, our time, Sherwin. It would appear that they will make that trip to the DRC eventually. Do we have any clarity then when the SG and the AU Commission Chair will visit?
No clarity at this time, Bongani. We are waiting to hear from the Secretary General's office when this will be rescheduled. But I must tell you, at the end of that clip, I don't think we included the laughter from the Secretary General. He really laughed from his belly, given the scenario that he painted out. Essentially, the DRC president saying, "Don't come now. I have some important information and announcements that I want to make in terms of this election, and I don't want to give the international community a sense, or certainly people domestically, a sense that I was pressured by your visit into making these decisions." The Secretary General in that clip saying that he's quite happy if, with that reasoning, just as long as the good decisions are then put into place and implemented. So we don't have clarity on when that trip will happen. My understanding is this was months in the works. We also understand that the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, was due to go to Kinshasa as well. That trip also was cancelled at the behest of the DRC government. In fact, Joseph Kabila refusing to meet with the U.S. envoy, essentially a cabinet minister, a cabinet-level appointment, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. So a lot of drama certainly unfolding. Of course, key dates to look for are, of course, August 8th, when all presidential candidates have to make their candidatures known, that they will be standing in the election. And of course, the big date of 23rd of December is when this election will happen. And the big question we still have is whether President Joseph Kabila will stand in that election or not.
And of course, the issue of Jean-Pierre Bemba, no doubt. Now, we understand that he was also asked a question about what some are calling an assault on the post-World War II order, the international rules-based system, and indeed the UN itself. Tell us more about that.
Well, no prizes for guessing which country that question was referring to. I think it was plainly obvious from the question from my colleague at the Associated Press, the assault on the post-World War II international-based, rules-based system. We see the difficulties countries face as they show standoff in the Security Council. We've seen the United States pull out of communiques at the G7. You had a story before I came on here about the difficulties that NATO members are facing due to the intransigence of the United States President, the withdrawal from the Paris Climate Change Agreement. This was the response of the Secretary General Bongani to that specific question.
I am totally confident that the world will remain fully recognizing that the United Nations are an absolutely essential multilateral instrument to support peace and security worldwide, but also to be a pillar in relation to development and human rights. That doesn't mean the United Nations doesn't need reform. And as you know, I've been strongly committed to reform of the United Nations. And obviously, there are other reforms that will be important to advocate for in the context of the global multilateral system. But one thing is to advocate for reforms that adapt the multilateral system to the new conditions that exist today and that are different in many aspects in relation to what they were after the Second World War. The second is to think that we can live without a multilateral system or about a rules-based international set of relations. It is my deep belief that the challenges we face are more and more global challenges, and only through multilateral governance and the rules-based international system we will be able to respond to that. And of course, reforms should be organized in order to strengthen that capacity and to make it more effective in addressing the needs and aspirations of we the peoples.
No doubt, of course, Donald Trump's bluster is going to play well to a domestic audience when he returns from Europe.